Right. Okay, here we go. Shavua Tov, everyone. I hope everybody had a suitably meaningful Pesach. You can see the flag flying behind me, and that is in solidarity, of course, with Rabbi Leo D., who has demonstrated the most unbelievable courage and fortitude and leadership in a time of great tragedy. This is just my way of being in solidarity with him. He asked for everybody to fly the flag. We are one people, and his example should be followed by everybody. And we dedicate the shiur to the memory of Leah and Maya and Rina. Okay, so we are in Shmuel Aleph, chapter 19. It's been a couple of weeks since we learned because of the Chagim, etc. So let's just have a little recap of where we are. I'll just share the screen with you straight away, and then we will have a little recap and then go on to learn some new things. Now, I seem to have lost you all there for some reason. Maybe I'll find you again. There you go. There we go. Found out how to do it. I've got this new computer system, which I'm still learning my way around a little bit. So just have to forgive me if things are not quite as smooth as they should be. Right. Okay. So there's the screen. Can you see the screen? Yeah. You got the text? Right. So beginning of chapter 19, we had Jonathan saying to David that Shaul wanted to kill him. And then we saw, as we went on, that Shaul has another go at killing David. Chapter verse 10 there, tries to pin him to the wall with the spear, and he misses again. And this time David doesn't hang around like he did last time. He runs away and he escapes, and he goes back to his own house with his wife Michal. And Michal lets him out through the window in the same manner as Rahab. We spoke about Rahab last time with the spies that Joshua sent. And then we had this very interesting discussion about the teraphim, this mannequin, this kind of idol soothsaying thing, whatever it was, which Michal put in the bed together with either a goat's skin, which made it look like a head, or according to Josephus, if you remember, it was a goat's liver that was sort of jumping up and down all over the place and making the bedclothes look like it was moving. Jeffrey told us that he used to use a balloon to do that. That's where we ended off last time. We had this interesting discussion. We looked at a bit of Josephus. And so verse 18 is where we got to. Okay, verse 18. This is now David has run away, and the question is, where is he going to run to? I would have thought, I don't know about what you think, but I would have thought the obvious place to run to would have been to the family home, to his father and his brothers. Remember, he was one of 7 or 8 brothers, depending on which opinion you take, some of whom were serious soldiers in the army of Shaul. So if it had been me, I think I'd have run away back home. But that's not where David goes. Let's have a look where he does go. Jeffrey.
David fled and escaped and came to Samuel at Ramah. He told him all that Saul had done to him. So he and Samuel went and stayed at Naioth.
Naioth. Okay, let's stop there for a second. So he runs to Shmuel. Shmuel being the prophet. Why do you think he went to Shmuel? Any suggestions why he went to Shmuel?
Shmuel had given him a kingship.
Who is that? That's then
Michael.
Michael, what did you say, Michael? I can only see the top of your head, Michael. I can only see the just about. Oh, that's better.
Okay, Samuel gave him the kingship, so it was an obvious place to go.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair enough. Any other suggestions why he went to Samuel? Well, I would have said that Samuel is the one person who Shaul might listen to. Because, of course, Samuel was the one who is, in effect, the check and balance to the king. He's the one that anointed Shaul in the first place. He was the one that said to Shaul, it's over, mate. God has taken the kingship from you. Shmuel clearly has a position of power over Shaul. And perhaps that's why David went to Shmuel, in the hope that he would be able to, I don't know, talk some sense into Shaul. I think that Michael's point that Shmuel had already anointed David in private, and therefore David had this confidence in Shmuel. I think that's a fair point, absolutely, as well. But either way, he went to Shmuel and he told him all that Saul had done to him. And then he and Shmuel went and stayed in Naioth, and it's written Benavot. That's how it's written. You can see over here on the right hand side there in brackets, Ktiv Benavot. So it's one of those Korean ksivs where it's written differently to the way it's pronounced. Any idea where Naioth might be, or what Naioth might be? David Marks, I'm sure that you can tell me. Why do I think that David Marks can tell me this? Because he has the book that he bought me. And it says it in there, a very interesting thing. So in this lovely book here, the Koren, there you go, you can just about see it, the Koren Tanakh of the land of Israel, says like this: David flees to Ramah, where he visits Shmuel and tells him about Shaul's attempt to kill him. They both go from there to Naioth, and he's suggesting, because of the Korean ksiv, because it's written with a vav in it, that it's from the Hebrew word naveh. The Hebrew word naveh means pasture or a shepherd's abode. So it seems that, according to this at least, it implies a sort of a shack in the fields, which is a sensible place to go to if you're running away from somebody. You're going to go to somewhere where, you know, they're not going to think of going to look for you in some kind of shack. You're the potential king, and Shmuel, of course, is the Navi. So they run off to this sort of this shepherd's abode in the field. And he suggests here that it may be related to an Akkadian word as well. And it refers to some kind of nomadic or semi-nomadic tribal status. So he suggests that this Naioth Beramah, Ramah, of course, Ramah is a place. And of course, we know from Ramat Poleg, Ramat HaGolan, Ramah is a height. Okay, so this was a high up place. And so this Naioth Beramah seems to have been some place up in the hills, some kind of little caravan somewhere up in the hills, where David would have been less conspicuous and could have hidden a little bit more easily than anywhere else. So that seems to be what's happened here. Okay. Yes, Jeffrey, you wanted to add something?
Well, yes. I mean, you said a place in the fields where shepherds were, but shepherds would also be in the hills. And if David went to hide in the hills, he would also have an observation point where he could see Shaul or his army in pursuit, and he would have a warning. So it makes sense for him to go up rather than to stay in a field, which
that makes absolute sense, and it fits because this was Navot Berama. Navot, the next pasuk. We'll have a look at the next pasuk, verse 19.
It was told to Saul, saying, "Behold, David is in Naot, in Ramah."
Okay, Benavot Berama, on the hills. Berama is a place in the heights. So I'm sure you're right, Jeffrey, that is where they went, and you're quite right, of course, that they would have a vantage point there to have a look and see. And in fact, of course, you'll see very shortly that Saul does send people to try and capture David. And we'll see what happens in a moment. But just before that, I want to concentrate just for a second on the language of verse 19. Vayugad l'Shaul. Vayugad. Does that word sound familiar to you? Who thinks that word sounds familiar, and who thinks they've heard it in the last week? Well, obviously you've heard it in the last week, or else I wouldn't have asked it, would I? So where have you heard that word in the last week?
Haggadah.
Not in the Haggadah. Well, yes, maybe in the Haggadah. Yes, possibly. I can't remember because I didn't read the whole Haggadah. So I have to et chata'ai ani maskir hayom. But you're close. You're warm, Paul. It has a Pesach flavor to it, this question. David, can you tell us?
Yeah, in the laning on the 7th day of Pesach, Vayugad Pharaoh lemor.
Absolutely. Vayugad lemelech Mitzrayim. And it was told to the king of Egypt, Ki barach ha'am, that the people had run away. It's the laning, it's the beginning of Bashalach. It's the laning for the 7th day of Pesach. And Vayugad lemelech Mitzrayim, and it was told to the king of Egypt, Ki barach ha'am, that the people had fled. Vayivrach, and they ran away. Ki barach ha'am, the people had fled. So you can see here, this is the same idea. Who has fled at the time of Melech Mitzrayim? That was, of course, the Bnei Israel. And here, the same expression, Vayugad l'Shaul. Shaul was Melech as well, wasn't he? But he wasn't Melech Mitzrayim. He's Melech Yisrael. And his enemy has fled. David has fled. Now, this is a literary attempt to show Shaul in a very negative light, because it's telling us, it's giving us a comparison between Shaul and Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, using the same language. Vayugad is not a common word in the Torah, in that binyan, that it's a passive binyan, Vayugad, and it was told. There are a couple of other places in the Torah where it is, but the one that is most pertinent here is Vayugad lemelech Mitzrayim, and Shaul is being compared to Pharaoh. Pharaoh chased out the Bnei Israel, or chased after the Bnei Israel, and wanted to do them harm. And here it's told to Shaul, Hine David benavot berama. David is in now. So what did he do? Okay, verse 20, Jeffrey.
Saul sent messengers to arrest David. When they arrived, they saw a group of prophets prophesying, with Samuel standing erect, overseeing them. And the Spirit of God came upon Saul's messengers, and they too prophesied.
Okay, let's stop there and just see and think about this, what's going on here. So they're in this place in Naot, and somebody leaks where he is. Shaul finds out, it was told to him, and he sends messengers. Malachim, interesting word, malachim. We know that there is another translation of the word malach, isn't there? Angel, that's right. Paul has just mouthed the word angel. Malach is an angel. Angel. Somebody told me something rather amusing on Shabbat, actually. I can't remember the context of how it came up, but he said that before you get married, you think that your wife to be is a malach, is an angel. He said that. He said after you got married, you realize that she's the malach hamoves. This was no, it wasn't Herzl actually. This was said by somebody who is not married. So of course, anyway, it sort of rather amused me. Anyway, a malach is another word for an angel, but it doesn't always mean angel. It can mean messengers as well. Where do we have somebody sending messengers using this word malachim? Where have you heard that before? Yes, Jeffrey.
I think when we had the story of Abraham and the Malachim came to visit.
Okay, that's true, but they really were angels. You're right. The language is Malachim. They really were angels.
Wasn't it with Hannah? With Hannah, Johnny, with Hannah when she wanted to have a child, weren't there Malachim who came to her?
No, Hannah went to the Bet Mikdash, and she davened there. But I'll give you a clue. Have a look at the word, the big first word of verse 20.
Vayishlach Shaul.
Yes, Vayishlach. Does that give you a clue? Yes.
Yeah, Parshat Vayishlach.
Dropped. Parshat Vayishlach.
Yeah.
Parshat Vayishlach. Jacob sends messengers to his brother Esav. Remember the story? Esav was coming to him with 400 armed men. Beginning of Parshat Vayishlach, Vayishlach Malachim. Exactly the same words. He sent messengers. He sent messengers. And what were these messengers going to do? They were going to appease Esav. They were going to say to Esav, don't come and fight with Jacob. You have to understand that Jacob is coming with peace, and he's brought you this lovely present of all these animals, and he refers to himself. He refers to Jacob as your servant and Esav as my master. It's a very apologetic and full of appeasement. That was Vayishlach Malachim. Here we have a contrast, because these Malachim that Shaul is sending are anything but appeasing David. They are going, the next word, lakachat, to take David. And I think that you translated it, Jeffrey, if I'm not mistaken, you translated it as to arrest David. Is that right?
I don't remember saying that.
Verse 20.
Yeah. Saul sent messages to arrest David. I apologize. Yes.
To arrest David. So this was not. So these malachim were not appeasing messengers. These were clearly soldiers sent to get him. Now, what happened when they got there was that they saw this prophesying. Now, we've had this idea of prophesying a few times previously. We had it in Sefer Bamidbar. If you remember, we have the story of Eldad and Medad. Remember that story? These were the two people in the camp who were prophesying, and Yehoshua gets very upset about it because, according to the Midrash, they were prophesying against Moshe Rabbeinu, that Moshe Rabbeinu was not going to take them into the land, and that Yehoshua was going to be the new leader. And Yehoshua said to Moshe, put them in prison. You have to imprison these people. You can't have people saying this is insurrection in the camp. Moshe says, don't worry about it. You don't have to worry on my behalf. Halavai, everybody in Bnei Israel should reach the level of prophecy. And that was the first time we encountered this idea of mitnabeim. Mitnabeim here is vayitnabeu, and they were prophesying here. Vaya et lahakat hanaviyim. Anybody know what this word lahakat means? What is a lahaka what is a lahaka in modern
Lahaka means
Hebrew?
a group.
Yes, a group. In modern Hebrew, it means a band. You know, like a musical band is called a lahaka. It's a
very famous film called Lahaka.
Yeah, this word lahaka is an unusual word in biblical Hebrew. It's a common word in modern Hebrew, but it's an unusual word. So this was a band of prophets here. This group of prophets, Niv'im, and they were prophesying. Now, we've had this before. Where did we have the idea in Sefer Shmuel? Where have we had this before, where there was prophecy going on like this? Can anybody remember? We've had it before. I'm just trying to look for the exact chapter where it was.
When Shaul was first nominated.
Yes, correct, Paul. When Shaul is first anointed, it's in chapter 10 of Shmuel Aleph. I've got chapter 11 up here. Why have I got chapter 11 up here? That's for something else. Okay. But let's just go back to chapter 10 for a minute. In chapter 10, what we see is no, that's not what we're talking about. Hang on, let me get the right place. When Shaul is first crowned, Shmuel says to him, "You're going to go down the hill, and you're going to see these people prophesying." And we need to I need to find that. Where is it?
I think it's right at the very beginning, because Shaul. Samuel took a vessel oil, poured it onto Shaul's head, and kissed him. He said, "Indeed, Hashem has anointed you as ruler over." When you leave me today, you will encounter two men near Rachel's tomb at the border.
What chapter is that, Jeffrey?
That's right at the beginning of chapter 10, and it's
so it was chapter 10. I was right.
Yeah, and it's verse 2. It's verse 2.
I think you need verse 10, Johnny.
I'm in Shmuel Bet, that's why. Idiot Lieberman. There we go. Found it. I was on Shmuel Bet for some reason. There we are. Shmuel Aleph, chapter 10. Correct. There it is. Exactly that. You'll found there that there will be these men, and you had this whole thing where they were carrying kids and loaves of bread and wine and everything, and you had this prophesying. And then then we have verse 11, which is verse 10 and verse 11, very important. Chapter 10, verse 10 and verse 11, Jeffrey.
They arrived here at the hill, and behold, a band of prophets was opposite him. The Spirit of God passed over him, and he prophesied among them. All those who had known him from yesterday and before then saw that, behold, he was prophesying along with the prophets. And they said to one another, what is this that has happened to the son of Kish? Is Saul among the prophets?
Okay, stop there. Okay, so what this is at the beginning of Saul's kingship. And Saul has the spirit of Hashem upon him. There it is in verse 10. Vatitzlach alav ruach Elohim. Now, this is not the ruach ra. This is not the evil spirit that we've been speaking about more recently, when he has his melancholy, when he has his paranoia. This is the Spirit of God that turns him into a prophet. And he gets this Spirit of God in verse 10, and he joins the prophets. Okay? And people are amazed. And they say, what's happened to this Ben Kish, the son of Kish? Wow, Shaul has become a prophet. And this is a very positive idea. This is at the beginning of the kingship of Shaul. Everybody is amazed that Shaul has become a prophet, and this is a praise for Shaul at the beginning of his kingship. Philip, can you mute yourself, please, because I've got some feedback. Philip, please mute. Thank you. Right. So here in chapter 10, look at the language. Very, very important. And remember it. Hagam Shaul ban Neviim. Is Shaul also a prophet? Wow. Shaul is a prophet. Now, fast forward to the end of Shaul's kingship, which is where we are in chapter 19. And we see a bookend, the bookend of the other side of the coin here is the end of Saul's kingship, and we have Shaul sends messengers, and we're going to see what happens next. He sends messengers. The messengers have a spirit of Hashem upon them. Have a look over here, verse 20 again for us, Jeffrey, in our chapter 19, verse 20.
Saul sent messengers to arrest David. When they arrived, they saw a group of prophets prophesying, with Samuel standing erect, overseeing them. And the Spirit of God came upon Saul's messengers, and they too prophesied.
So they became prophets, these messengers. So Shaul is expecting them to come back with David in chains, but it doesn't. They don't. They stay there, and they join David's band of prophets, or Shmuel's band of prophets. Verse 21. So what does Shaul do?
People told Saul, and he sent other messengers, but they too prophesied. Saul persisted and sent a third group of messengers, but they too prophesied.
I mean, this is comical. This is ridiculous. Shaul sends a bunch of messengers, and they get converted and don't go back to Shaul. So what does he do? He sends an next lot, and they don't come back either. So what does he do? He sends a third lot. Now, what does that remind you of? A prophet who does not listen to a message which was given to him on 3 occasions.
Lost it.
Who? Say again, Jeffrey?
He's lost it. He's lost his power.
He's lost it. That's right.
Yeah.
Who does it remind you of in the Torah? Another
Pharaoh.
prophet who got a message from God 3 times and ignored it.
Is that Job?
No, I think that would be
Jonah.
a bit harsh.
Jonah.
I mean, his
Jonah.
messages were a bit different. I mean, he got his kids taken off him and his money taken off him.
That's what I meant.
Jonah.
Yeah.
Jonah, 3 warnings. Where are the 3 warnings, Anita?
Once.
Where are I? I just don't
That's
see.
not the Torah.
Okay, Paul?
You said it's not in the Torah. You said in the Torah.
Yes, Yonah's not in the Torah. It is in the Torah. So where is it?
3 lots of messengers were killed when they went up to the mountain, but I can't remember who it related to.
Okay, I'm not necessarily 3 messengers, but 3 messages. I'll put you out of your
Moshe, when he went to Pharaoh?
Well, Pharaoh got more than 3 messages, didn't he? He got 10. Maybe it's me that's been a little bit obtuse, but here it is on the screen for you. Bilam.
Yeah.
Bilam. Balak sends messengers, and then he sends a second lot, doesn't he? But he doesn't send a third lot, because after the second lot, Bilam goes with the messengers towards Balak to curse the people, right? But we have that whole performance with the talking donkey. And what does the donkey say? The donkey comes along, and it says here that an angel of our Lord stationed himself on the road to thwart him, that's Bilam. The donkey saw the angel and turned aside. So Bilam gives the donkey a shmais, and it happens 3 times. And there in verse 28, I've highlighted it on the screen. Hashem opened the mouth of the she-donkey, and she said to Bilam, what have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times? So again, if we go back to our story here, Shaul is being compared. Initially, he's compared to Pharaoh in the word Vayugad. Then he's being compared with these three messages, if you like, that he's getting to, and he's not getting it. Paul's not buying that. Okay, it's fair enough. It's a little bit obtuse, that one. But either way, Shaul is not listening to the messages that have been sent to him. And you're going to see what's going to happen to him in a minute. Yes, Jeffrey?
I don't think it. I think it is a very clear message because of the phrase, you know, it's like a donkey. And it's clear. It's as clear as anything.
He's not listening.
Everyone else around Shaul gets the message, and Shaul's like a donkey. He doesn't get it.
Yeah. Okay. So Jeffrey likes it. Paul's not so keen. Okay. Very good. Okay. So let's go on. So he sends these third lot of messengers, and they too prophesize. Right. So now you've got this whole bunch of people who are prophesying. Now, this idea of prophecy here, if you go back to the Eldad and Medad story, what the Torah tells us there is that there was the sounds of partying and music, and it was clearly some kind of sort of ecstatic experience here, spiritual experience. Those of you who have ever seen the Nachmanites, they're going with all their spirituality, you can see they're really on a high plane there. They may be assisted by various substances or what have you, I don't know, but either way, they're definitely, you know, on a high spiritual plane. And this prophecy is some kind of ecstasy that they're experiencing, these people, and the Tanakh uses this expression lehit nabe, to prophesy. But you know, it can go right and it can go wrong, these things. You know, if you can be on a fine line between spirituality and craziness. And let's see what's going to happen. Yes, Jeffrey? Well,
it's like they've seen the light. All these messengers have seen the light. And Shaul Nebuch, he's playing the donkey. He's not seen the light. And so it's very clear to the messengers that Shaul is no longer fit to be the leader. And they, if you like, converted and followed David.
Okay, I think that's true. I think that's absolutely right, that these people have seen the light. And by the way, that's pretty brave of them, because they are Shaul's messengers, and they have, you know, they've defected. effectively, haven't they? Let's have a look what Shaul did. Now, he sent 3 lots of messengers, and none of them have come back. They've all become prophets. So what did he do? Well, he says, well, I better go and have a look for myself, see what's going on. Verse 22.
So he went to Ramah himself, arriving at the cistern in Seku. He inquired and said, where are Samuel and David? Someone said, they are in Naot in Ramah.
Okay, stop there. So, very interesting language here, which we don't really hear in Jeffrey's translation. Could you read that again slowly, Jeffrey?
So he went to Ramah himself, arriving at the cistern in Seku. He inquired and said, where are Samuel and David? Someone said, they are in Naot in Ramah.
Okay, now, there's a little bit of subtext. What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Subliminal messages going on here with the language. Vayelech gamhu haramata. And he also went to Ramah. What have we said Ramah means? Heights. Yeah, Ramat Golan, Ramat Poleg, Ramat Sharon. Ramah means the heights. He also went to Ramah. He also wanted to go to the high place, not the physical high place, but he wanted to be in a high place, the king in a high place. But look where he came to. And it doesn't really come in Jeffrey's translation. It's better in the translation on the screen. Look at the translation on the screen.
He arrived at the well.
Ad Bor Hagadol. He came to the great pit. A bor is a pit. He wants to go up to the heights. But where did he arrive at? A bor. He arrived at the pit. The exact opposite of what he wanted to achieve. He doesn't know it yet, but he is now at the nadir of his kingship. It's all over. He's now arrived at the Bor Hagadol, the great pit. Asher Besechu is in his place. The literal translation of it is that it was a cistern. It was where they kept their water, and he presumably went there because that's people were coming to draw water. And he asked the question, "Where are Shmuel and David?" It was a good place to go. It was like, the information desk of the town. But the subliminal message here is very clear. Actually, it's not all that subliminal. Using the words Ramah and Bor, it's indicating that where he wanted to go to, he never arrived. Okay, Vayelech, he went to go to the high place, but actually Vayavo, he came to the Bor Hagadol. He came to the great pit. This was it. He was at the bottom of his life here, really.
Johnny,
okay?
Sorry.
Yes, Anita, I can only see the top of your head.
Sorry, why did he have to even ask where they were? He was told where they were exactly, and he sent 3 lots of messengers to where they were. So why is it saying, why was he asking where they were?
On a simple level, I guess that he's saying, well, the messengers never came back, did they? So he has not actually had a messenger come back and say, we found them in Naot. Right. So I suppose he's asking them, are they still in Naot? I mean, that's on a simple level. But they look at the answer. I think the question that you've asked is pertinent, because look at the answer. Vayomer, and they said, or he said, one of them said, Hine benayot beramah. Again, using that word Ramah. They are in the place of Ramah. They're in that high place. You are at the pit, Mr. Shaul, King Shaul. David and Shmuel are at the high place. So you've spotted there Another opportunity for the pasuk to use this language of Ramah where they are. Okay,
Could
and
you
now
be-
look
could-
what
could-
happens. Verse 20.
Sorry, could you determine that it was a spiritual high place then?
I think it was both, Michael. I think that what Jeffrey's point that it was a physical high place, being a place where he could look out for his enemies coming to get him. I think that's absolutely correct. But I think this was also a spiritual high place as well. Ramah was the place where Shmuel lived. The actual area of Ramah was this place where Shmuel lived. Shmuel was the prophet. Shmuel had, as it were, a direct line to God. So yes, I think it's a spiritual high place. I think that's the implication of these psukim underneath the surface. And the Bor Hagadol, this great pit, the word Bor has a negative connotation, doesn't it? Who got chucked in a pit?
Yosef.
Yosef got chucked in a pit. It wasn't very nice. Here it has a negative connotation, this Bor Hagadol, this great pit. So I think, yes, Michael, I think it has both spiritual and physical connotations to this pasuk. On a simple level, we're talking about geography. This was on a high place, and the cistern would have been at a low place, of course, because all the water that you want to gather, you do take it to the lowest place because you use gravity to help you take that water down. You're not going to put a cistern at the top of a hill because then you have to schlep the water all the way up the hill. So the cistern will be at the bottom of the hill. So geographically, these were high places and low places, but there's also a spiritual message as well to it. So I think that's right. So then verse 23, Jeffrey.
He went there to Naot in Ramah, and the Spirit of God came upon him as well. And he kept on prophesying until he arrived at Naot in Ramah.
Okay, so let's stop there. Now, this is interesting. The messengers prophesy when they arrive at Naot and they see Shmuel. Okay, verse 20. Shaul sent messengers to take David, and they saw this company of prophets prophesying, and Shmuel was standing at the head of them. Only when they saw Shmuel did they get the Spirit of God on them, and they prophesied. Shaul, on the other hand, appears to get his Spirit of God before he arrives at Naot, because it says, Vayelech, and he went haloch. Vayelech haloch means he went along. He was going along prophesying ad bo'o b'navot until he arrived at Navot. So he got this spirituality beforehand. Any possible explanations for that?
Can I just ask you? I got a bit confused. I thought we said earlier on that he was a prophet. He had prophecy much earlier on in his career.
He did.
So it seems to be coming and going. It's ebbing and flowing. I mean, that's why I thought it was extraordinary. He didn't know what was going on, because if he had prophecy, I mean, presumably the prophecy comes when Hashem wants revelations to come to that person. So when you're blind and you don't see, then you sort of, your connection's lost. So it seems to be gaining it and losing it.
That's exactly the point, Avril. That's exactly the point. Exactly the point. If you have a look, whenever you see that this prophecy occurs, it's preceded by this idea of Ruach Elohim. You see this? Vatahi al malachei Shaul Ruach Elohim, and a spirit from God was upon Saul's messengers, and they too prophesied. So they got this prophecy only when the Spirit of God came upon them. We see this with Shaul quite a lot. With Shaul, we see that when he gets the Spirit of God on him at the beginning in chapter 10, he got the Spirit of God on him and he prophesied. In our chapter and the previous chapter, chapter 18, when he has the Ruach Ra'ah Elohim, the evil spirit of God, comes on him, and then he gets his paranoia. So it's as exactly as you've said, Avril, it's a coming and going. A prophet is not a prophet the whole time. Okay, we know that from Yaakov Avinu. For 22 years, he lost the ability to have this Ruach Elohim, this Spirit of God. Why? Because he was in a state of melancholy. He was in a state of depression because of Yosef, because Yosef had gone missing. And for 22 years, until he knew that Yosef was alive again, they were told that he never had any kind of prophecy. Because you have to be in a proper state of mind to be able to get that message from Hashem, if you like. So you're right, you're absolutely right. And that is why here Shaul gets the prophecy before he gets to Naot, whereas the other ones had to wait till they got to Naot. It's a bit like tolerance, right, of drugs. When you've had a drug once, the effects of it come on much quicker afterwards. So that means that he had the ability to be a prophet. So he felt that prophecy before he even reached Naot. He didn't have to see Shmuel standing there erect over these prophets here to get the prophecy. He sort of, it was in the air. He felt it. The Ruach Elohim came over him. And this is his final Ruach Elohim. We will see that this is the final time in his life that he will get this Spirit of God on him. And look what happens. He doesn't quite get there. As I said to you a few minutes ago, there is a very fine line between intense spirituality and craziness. Right? I can't tell you the number of Mashiachs that Nebuchadnezzar had to visit over the years in the wards of the psychiatric hospitals that I've worked in. Lords and Jesuses and Mashiachs. It's a very, very common delusion. Religiosity is a very, very common manifestation of mental illness, and there's a very fine line between spirituality and mental illness. I've seen it many, many, many times where boys go to yeshiva and they become proper from and really into the whole learning, and they're first there in the Beis HaMedrash, they're last out of the Beis HaMedrash, they're learning 24/7, they're going to the mikveh 10 times a day, and the next thing is they've had a mental breakdown and they're in the psychiatric ward. And I've seen that so many times. There's a very fine line between religious, spiritual ecstasy and mental illness. And this is what happens here. We know that Shaul is prone to mental illness. We've seen it before. The Ruach Ra'ah Me'Elohim, the bad spirit comes on him. He gets this paranoia. He throws the spear at David. He acts in an irrational way. And now look what happens to him. He goes prophesying until he comes to Naot, and verse 24. Jeffrey, verse 24.
He too removed his royal raiment, and he too prophesied before Samuel. He fell unclothed that entire day and night. Therefore there, people say, is Saul also among the prophets.
Okay, there's a lot in that pasuk there. And you have another example there of a art scroll whitewash. Read that again for us, Jeffrey.
He too removed his royal raiment.
Stop there, please. He too removed his royal raiments.
Royal was in brackets.
Thank you. Royal is in brackets. That's the whitewash. Look at the Hebrew. Vayifshat gam hu begadav. Okay? Vayifshat gam hu begadav. He also removed his clothes. Look at the translation on the screen. He too stripped off his clothes. Okay? Carry on with your translation.
And he too prophesied before Samuel. He fell unclothed that entire day and night.
Now, if you read Jeffrey's translation in the Art Scroll, you have the impression that Shaul took off his royal garment, but he was still clothed, and he was unclothed of his royal garment. But that is not what the Pasuk says. The Pasuk says he stripped off his clothes and he prophesied, Gamhu, also him, Lifnei Shmuel, Vayipol Arom. Arom. What does that word Arom mean?
Naked.
Naked. Does not mean unclothed in the terminology of lacking the royal garment. It means stark naked. Where have we had that word before?
Starkers. In the Garden of Eden.
Correct. In the Garden of Eden. Correct. Adam and Chava realized ki erumim heim, that they were naked. And of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made for them their clothes. So here, the Art Scroll translation is trying to, I suppose, give a little bit more kavod to Shaul, but the Hebrew words are very clear. He had crossed this line from religiosity into crazy behavior, and so had the others, because Vayifshat Gamhu, also he wasn't the only one that was stark naked. They were all stark naked, and this is what had happened. This prophecy here had sort of gone awry, and I'll come to David Marks in a minute. He's unmuted, which also always means he's going to add something to us here. But I just want to finish this point first. Remember, I showed you in chapter 10 the beginning of Shaul's reign, when he prophesied for the first time. What did the people say? They said, Hagam Shaul Banviim. Wow, what's happened to this Ben Kish, this son of Kish? He's become a prophet. Wow, Shaul is a prophet. The same words are used here as a bookend. Hagam Shaul Banviim. Is this what's happened to Shaul? He's become a prophet. Is Saul really amongst the prophets here? He's lying there stark naked all day and all night. What a busha, what a disgrace for the king of Israel to be there naked on the floor with all these other people naked on the floor. This is not the way it should be. Hagam Shaul Banviim, it's the same expression. Shaul, who started off his reign with such promise that he was going to be the king of Israel, that was going to be the savior, and he was a prophet, and the people were, wow, Shaul is a prophet. Those same people now, at the end of his life, Nebuch, he's been reduced to a blathering, naked wreck, if you like, and they say, Hagam Shaul ben Nevi'im, is Shaul amongst the prophets? Is that what has become of him? Oy vavoy, this is a terrible thing. And this is really the trough, the nadir of Shaul's life, really, that he finds himself the king. Not only has he taken off his royal garments, he's taken off all his garments, and he's lying there with all the other people, with his head in the clouds, prophesying all night. And it's a shocking thought and a shocking picture that comes to mind, that the king of Egypt, say that was a Freudian slip there from Vayugad, that the king of Israel has been reduced to this sort of pattern of behavior. Yes, David Marks, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just to defend Art Scroll a second. It's not an Art Scroll whitewash; it's a Rashi whitewash. So they're merely quoting Rashi.
Same thing.
Okay, bit harsh. And Rashi and some of the other commentators take from other places in Tanakh where Arum means stripped of their royal garments, but not completely naked, or completely naked except for one garment.
Okay, doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, Art Scroll doesn't make these things up off their own.
No.
But they do. They are very.
But I agree with you. If you look at the plain text, it's pretty clear. When you compared to Adam and Chava, look at the verb here, vayitnabe, and the verb completely different meaning, but I wonder if there's any literal parallel there to vayitchabe. They hid because they were naked.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Vayitchabe, which is exactly the same word as vayitnabe, except the nun and the chet have been changed.
And a completely different meaning, obviously.
Of course, a completely different meaning, but it's that's an interesting observation. A very interesting observation, very perceptive. Thank you for that. As far as just to go back to the first point, of course, you know, Shivim Panim La Torah, there's 70 facets to the Torah. I will always go for the anti-whitewash, and Art Scroll will always go for the whitewash. And that's just, you know, a reflection of different personality. And it's fine. There's no problem with that at all. If you're going to be, you know, everybody does it. We are all selective in what we choose to support our own positions. And I don't for 1 minute suggest that my position is the only position that one can take. I like to go with a literal pshat. And Paul likes to pull me down on that. He's desperate to say something. Go on, Paul.
No, I'm just saying whitewash is a very loaded term.
Yes, it is. I say it advisedly. I do believe that it's a whitewash. I do believe that it's wrong to do so. That's my personal opinion. I don't think they do us any favors when they we are not a people of saints, and when they try and make us our heroes into saints, we are losing the ability to learn from behavior which is not good, as well as from behavior which is good. And I don't think it does. It is appropriate for a mature way of learning to always be whitewashing our people in Tanakh. That's my view.
That's true generally, Johnny. But here we're talking about Shaul, and it's well known throughout that he's not a good character. So that's why I don't think it's appropriate in this particular instance.
Well, I think to me it seems pretty clear. The psukim are telling us that he is in a bad place. He's in a bad place, and I think that's the message. Really, he's in a bad place. Yes, Jeffrey.
Well, it also said he fell. So really, instead of being elevated, which is when you climb up, you're elevated. He actually fell, and he's on the floor. And maybe there's some meaning in that.
That's interesting. I hadn't noticed that, but you're right. The verb here is vayipol, and he fell. And again, that is a verb which is used, and it's used in modern Hebrew as well, to denote a fall from grace. When you speak about the Egel HaZahav, you speak about the golden calf, you speak about the nefilah of Bnei Yisrael, the fall of Bnei Yisrael. And I'm sure you're right, Jeffrey. I hadn't noticed that verb there, but I think that fits in with this entire picture of Shaul, where it's a nebuch. You know, he's fallen from grace in a big way. And of course, there are messages there for all of us. This is the king of Israel. This is a leader who has not lived up to his potential. He had great potential, and that's why this last verse, this last few words here, Hagam Shaul Banaviim, is so poignant, because it began with Hagam Shaul Banaviim. Let's just go back to chapter 10 of Shmuel Aleph here. Hagam Shaul Banaviim, can you see it in verse 12? They are the exact same words. Hagam Shaul Banaviim. That's what they said at the beginning. Back to our chapter. Hagam Shaul Banaviim. The same three words. It's not coincidence that. That is a clear message that what started with such great promise, that he was a prophet of Israel, the king of Israel, the first king of Israel who was going to lead the people to great things, becomes a prophet, and Nebuch ends up in this terrible state. So it's a message there, I guess, for people who are leaders of their countries. I'm not going to go any further into that. You can read into that whatever you wish, because I will not tell you my politics. Right. Okay, time's up. That went quickly, didn't it? Doesn't time fly when you're enjoying yourself? Any questions or comments about chapter 19? Yes, David.
Yeah, can I just go back to the language you pointed out in verses 18 and 19, the David Barach and Vayugad l'Shaul, and you pointed out the comparison with Pharaoh, Melech Mitzrayim, Vayugad l'Melech Mitzrayim. I think there's a more significant parallel with the parallel story that we discussed at length before Pesach. Have a look at Bereshit chapter 31, verse 22.
You're going to tell us Lavan and Yaakov, yes?
Exactly.
Yes. Let's go there. Bereshit chapter 31. Well, hang on a minute. That's not right. 31. There we go. If I'm not mistaken, Vayugad is also used there, isn't it? Vayugad Lavan.
Correct.
Yaakov. Is that
Correct.
right? Which pasuk is it?
Pasuk 22.
22. There you go. Vayugad Lavan Vayom Ashlishi Ki Varach Yaakov. Same language. Okay. So
Exactly.
Here we have Lavan being, we have Shaul being compared to Lavan as well. Also not a particularly savory character, and Yaakov being David being compared to Yaakov, Kivarach Yaakov. That's a very powerful comparison as well. And of course, there is the comparison between Lavan and Pharaoh, Vayugad Lavan and Vayugad L'Melech Mitzrayim, also the 3-day business. So the whole thing is all bound up together, isn't it?
Yeah, and you brought in great significance with the parallel of the story of Rachel there and Lavan a few weeks ago. Something I just saw, which is fascinating, is highly midrashic. Who told Lavan that Yaakov had run away, and who told Pharaoh that Bnei Yisrael had left Egypt and run away? If you look at the gematria of Ki Varach, it gives you 240, which is the gematria of Amalek. And according to the Balaturin quoting a midrash, it was Amalek, the grandson of Esav, who told Lavan that Jacob had escaped, and the same Amalek, so you have to stretch your imagination here a bit, that told Pharaoh that Bnei Israel had fled from Egypt.
Nice, I like it. Highly midrashic, as you say, but nevertheless, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so there you've got the thing. By the way, David, can you check for me? Vayugad somebody. We've got it here with Lavan. We've got it with Pharaoh. And we've got it with Shaul. Is there anywhere else in Tanakh where that expression Vayugad somebody in that binyan?
Yes, yeah, it's very common.
It's common to say Vayugad?
Yes, be very common.
Wasn't it used in the case of the revolt of Korach against Moshe?
I can't think of any others, but then again, my knowledge of the words in Tanakh is not so encyclopedic as yours. So, okay, there's your homework for you, David. Find me a few more Vayugads. Yes, Jeffrey.
Just one final thing about teraphim. Could it be another word for comforter? We call them idols, but children have a doll, a teddy bear, a blanket. They're comforters. And they keep them, they're very precious to them.
That's an interesting thought. Most of the people seem, the Mefarshim seem to say that these trafim were used to divine the future, that they were used as some kind of, you know, to give you an idea of what's going to go on in the future. They had some kind of magical powers. But that's an interesting idea that Rachel wanted to, but she didn't take her own. She didn't take her own trafim. It doesn't say that she took her own teddy bear. It says she took her father's trafim. So why would she take her father's teddy bear? Could be. It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea. I'll tell you something else, Jeffrey. What is another word for a mannequin?
Well, it's a model, isn't it?
It's a dummy. And what do we call a comforter in English? Not in American. They call it pacifiers, but we call it a
dummy.
A dummy. I don't know. Maybe. I think that's probably, even I think that's stretching that. Paul's not buying that for 1 minute, are you, Paul? No, Paul's not buying that. All right, everybody. Shavua Tov. We will try tomorrow night to do a shiur on tefillah. We'll carry on where we left off. I think we're about up to Pesukei to Zimra. We'll start that tomorrow night, hopefully. Wednesday, Gemara, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Johnny,
Okay.
will you send me that link, please? I sent you a message this morning. Yeah?
Yes, I'll send you the link.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Shavua Tov, everyone.
Bye. Shavua Tov.
You can stop recording now.
Thank you, Johnny. Shavua Tov, everyone.
Shavua Tov.
Great shiur. I enjoyed it.
As usual, as is his wont.
Thank you.
I'm reluctant to say so, but it's a fact.